I want to welcome Blessing, who is the next speaker. And Blessing Onojede is a food safety and HSE expert, an ISO management system consultant, trainer, and auditor. She's actually the CEO of Improvement Focus Consultants. She's a conference speaker who has also featured in several platforms. A former National Publicity Secretary of NIFT and a former staff of Lacasera, SGS, and Coca-Cola Company. And she has conducted some audit work on behalf of some clients. And she is a graduate of food technology with an MBA in international business management. And I want to welcome Blessing to proceed to present our lecture.
Good afternoon, my able National President, Professor Ngadi, dear professional colleagues, and every other guest that may be joining us for this webinar. It is a privilege to be here, to be able to make this presentation, and I really want to appreciate the leadership of NIST. Thank you once again. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so let's go right into it. I believe you can see my screen now. I have been asked to speak on robotic food process and systems. How ready is Nigeria? Well, for some people, they might say, is that even a question? Isn't the answer obvious? Not so fast. So let's move ahead together and see how ready we are as a nation for robotic food systems. The last speaker had already talked a lot about AI, which could also be applicable in robotics. But so let's just move on. So we're going to start with robots. Really, what are robots? According to Encyclopedia Britannica, it says that a robot is any automatically operated machine that replaces human effort, though it may not resemble human beings in appearance or perform functions in a human-like manner. That's the definition given by Encyclopedia Britannica. So basically, they just perform what humans are supposed to do. And then robotics. Obviously, the word robotic was coined from the word robots. So what is robotics? In a layman's language, we say that robotics is the application, the use of robots. But according to Encyclopedia Britannica, again, it says is the design, construction, and use of machines, which are robots, to perform tasks done traditionally by human beings, in a nutshell. Then there is the issue of robots and automation. What is the difference? Is there confusion here? According to your dictionary, it says the definition of automation is the use of machines and technology to make processes run on their own without manpower. Okay. So, how did we get to the point of robots? Like Prof mentioned when he was doing his presentation, it started from Stone Age. From Stone Age, we are now talking about robots. Briefly, the history of robots in brief. The word robot was first coined by the Czech playwright Karel Čapek in 1920. In his play, Rozum Universal Robots, popularly known as RUR, that was where the word robot came from. And what that play was depicting was mechanical men, that is robots, that were built to work in a factory assembly line, but they rebelled against their human masters. You know, people who like to watch sci-fi things, you know, you see that there are lots of robots-related sci-fi films. So what Zesh was trying to portray, Čapek was trying to portray in his, what he portrayed really in that play was robots that were used to work in the assembly lines. And then if you're thinking forward, really, there are different fears about robots. The major fear being that they're going to take over people's jobs. We're going to get that point. That is obvious. But again, going by a lot of sci-fi movies, there are also fears that with the way they're going, and artificial intelligence, which the last speaker talked about extensively, with artificial intelligence, these robots might also get to the point that they take over the entire universe, take over the earth from men. So that's robots for you. Again, how did it come about? This one was also by a Russian-born American science fiction writer. His name was Isaac Asimov. Of course, those are the real pictures you can see on the slide. Those are the real photographs. His name is Isaac Asimov. In his short play titled Roundabout, he mentioned robotics came. But in his own play, unlike Capek's play, he was more optimistic. He portrayed robots as helpful servants of man and viewed robots as better, cleaner race. So I say to you now, we are talking about robots. Obviously, it's the future, it's way to go. It might take, how long is it going to take Nigeria? 10 years, 20, 100? I don't know. But some countries are already deploying the use of robots. So whichever way, what are your thoughts? Do you think that they'll really get to the point with artificial intelligence of taking over the earth from man? Or do you think that we're going to be able to work together as pals? Well, that is not my own topic of interest for this presentation. So we just go on. Now, so but why robots in the food industry? I mean, we're doing good. We're doing okay. We had manual labors. People are there to do the work. So why robots again? Easy. Food lies in food processing. Food contamination. The thing for robots, one of the main reasons for robots in the food industry is due to food contamination. There's no gainsaying the fact that humans are carriers of food poisoning agents, pathogens, you know, and that's why the need for hand washing. When you get to industries, food manufacturing sectors, you find areas you have to wash your hands, observe basic hygiene practices before you can go in to handle the food. And then also the basic hygiene practices for you to be able to, before you enter, while you're working, if you go out and come back, all of those things are there. But in spite of that, there's still human errors. And then some people just do not like to be told what to do. They just want to do what they want to do. They know the right things to do, but they're just not, even though some of them are trained over and over again. We find that a lot in the industry. And that's one of the reasons for food safety. But with the robots, you clean them up. You have them prepared to do what you want them to do. There is a procedure for them they don't go beyond where they're supposed to go and all of that. And then human interaction. Also, there's food contamination from raw materials or food products that a human has recently touched. Of course, we say in food safety, one of the major ways to keep food safe is to ensure that you separate raw foods from cooked foods. Because apparently, raw foods still contains microorganisms, which may include pathogens that have not been cooked, have not been treated. So we will not allow that to mix with the raw food, with the prepared food. There is bound to be transfer of cross-contamination. So, like I said, in the food industry, people are taught these things, but they just want to do what they want to do. So the person who, for instance, just handled a bag of raw flour has to go and pick something from the conveyor, and it goes without going to wash his raw flour, and it goes to handle that and takes transfer. Or maybe you want to use a knife, a knife that was used to cut raw meat. You want to use it to cut a prepared product. Instead of washing it, clean it up properly, you just pick it, and there is bound to be cross-contamination. And then, you must also have the issues of human hair, human skin, human nails. Okay, like we say in the food industry, you have to, before you get into into the production floor in certain climes where people must keep beds. At the idea you shouldn't keep beds, but in certain maybe due to religious reasons, they need to keep their beds. So we say, okay, you have to have something to cover your beds. You have to cover your hair properly. Somehow, I don't know how that works. You still see air flying around, people's nails and stuff. But with robots, you don't get all this kind of food contamination. And then another reason, again, is the high demand for lean manufacturing within the food industry. And I know that this is not just within the food industry. Lean manufacturing has been on for a long time. There's been this conversation about lean manufacturing for a very long time, not just in the food industry. And I think now, even with the COVID thing, there's more conversation about lean manufacturing, because the more people you keep, the more money you have to pay, the more maintenance you have to do and stuff like that. And really it's difficult managing people. So another reason for robots is lean manufacturing. Or you may say to a blessing, isn't it expensive to install robots, to have robots in the work environment? Is that cheaper than, in the long run it is. In the short term, it might seem, if you're budgeting it, if you're putting it into your budget per year, it might be difficult, it might look a lot, but in the long term. So, and another reason for robots in the food industry is because to mitigate workplace accident levels as much as possible. Now, this is very serious, very, very serious. Okay, for food process, like I said, I'm a food technologist, I'm a food safety expert. I'm going to limit it to food industry and food safety. But right now, this last point is talking about HSE, occupational health and safety, which is another area that I'm good at. So when we talk about HSE, manufacturers, why do you set up an organization? You set up an organization to produce safe and quality products. You've not set up an organization to kill people, to get people injured. So you have to be careful, because when people come into that organization, there is a way they come in and there is a way they're expected to go out. And if that doesn't happen, a lot of things can go wrong. So that's why when the multinationals are rating during audits, when we go for HSE audits, there are different ratings. You have the critical, you have the improvement, you have the minors, you have the major. Once an organization sees a major, it is serious. Not to talk about critical, because if you allow that to fester, it can ruin the reputation of the organization. If an employee comes within your organization and because there are no safety measures in place, they get injured, or worse still, they die, that organization can be ruined for life. There will be issues of litigations and stuff like that. So when you consider all of this, and then again, same thing with people. People would always be people. Those things happen not because in a lot of cases, especially with the multinationals, which I'm quite conversant with, it's not that those things, it's not like things are not put in place to mitigate against those injuries. People would just not want to inconvenience themselves. People would always look for shortcuts. So they look to their right, they look to their left, no manager is coming, no supervisor is coming, and let's just quickly touch that electrical stuff. We don't need to put on anything, any safety gadget. How long is it going to take, especially in our client Nigeria? Let's just treat how long is it going to take. But in the big to quickly do it, anything can go wrong. And so when organizations, especially the big wigs, when they consider this and like, we don't want to, we've come this far, we don't want to put our organization at risk. So maybe we just have to. And also, if it's an organization who is trying to deal with occupational health and safety, they've been having issues and they've gotten to the points of critical. Maybe if they can afford this, they can think about for robots. Now, currently, robots in the food industry, it's existing a lot. We may not see a lot of them in Nigeria, but it already exists. So according to the International Federation of Robots, 240,000 units were sold worldwide in 2015. That was 8% increase in annual growth globally. Early uses of robots in food industry. Robots, when the use of robots started, again, I'll reiterate, robots are already in use in the food industry, not in Nigeria, of course, in developed countries. Okay, and that reminds me that the very first trip I made, the very first official trip I made when I joined the Coca-Cola company I was overwhelmed. I was blown away when I went to one of the plants, actually the biggest at Ibanena. I saw robots everywhere. I went into the floor, the packaging area. I saw robots. This was in 2007. 2007. So I go back and I said to my manager, how come we don't have this in Nigeria? How come we don't have robots? It was so nice watching them. And she said to me, we know we can do that, but remember that there's poverty in the land. If we decide to go robots, all these families here, one person working has their nuclear family, and then they have supports, extended family that we're used to in Africa. So put together all those people. That's why in Africa, I think that is one of the reasons we're still slow, because of the poverty rate. It's not like we don't, because these multinationals, most of them that set up, that have these things working in developed countries, they can also establish it here. But our leaders are cautious. They are aware of the fact that there's poverty in the land, and we have to consider our people first. And that was the very sensible excuse that my manager gave me back then. And I think it's still relevant today. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, so when robotics started in food industry, it was basically for packaging and palletizing operations. That was the beginning of it. But it's gone way, way beyond that now. Now, excuse me. Excuse me. Approximately 40% of palletizing operations and 26% of food and beverage packaging lines are engaged in the use of robotics. Now, not only are robots used in the food industry, we know that when we talk about food safety in the food industry, we talk farm to fork. So it's not just about in the industry again, it's gone beyond that. I'm going to be showing us different areas where robots are being used in the food industry. Food industry manufacturers have reported a 25% increase in productivity since employing robotics when compared to the work done by humans. Now, the statistics was taken in 2015, I think. And we're now in 2020. So make your calculations. Obviously, there must have been an increase before COVID. Now, I'm going to take us to the various applications of robotics in the food industry. I'll start from the very beginning. There can't be any form of production without agriculture. Because if we're talking about, well, there can't be any form of food production without agriculture, because we are food people. We're talking food here. So for food to happen, something must have happened at the farm. So robots go way back to the farms. And in agriculture presently, and before I say that, let me put it out there that an agricultural robot is also known as agribots. So whenever you hear agribots, it's referring to robots in agriculture sector. So they're used for specific agricultural purposes, for harvesting stage, obviously, for monitoring the environment, for soil analysis. And then the last point really is very interesting to me, because it talks about you're able to use robots to gather data on the status of the crop within the external conditions to evaluate the best type of condition to cultivate for crops. So when the robots do these things, I mean, these are some of the things that humans cannot do. So obviously there's going to be greater yield in agriculture, and there is greater yield in agriculture. I'm not telling you things that are going to be happening in the future. I'm showing you things that are already happening in other parts of the world. Robotics in food manufacturing. According to robotic.org, a major advancement in robotic technology within the food processing has been the introduction of more advanced grippers. These grippers allow for quick but gentle handling of sensitive food products like fruit and vegetables. Okay, I'll explain that. Initially, remember I said that at the beginning, robots were used for basically palletizing, packaging, and palletizing. Now, there was a huge challenge at the beginning, because food can be very sensitive. There is a way to handle foods. All foods are not the same. There are foods that if you don't handle properly, they will get out of form. They'll get out of form. We're not talking safety now, just they'll get out, or they can, and you know, robots are using machines, they are hard. So imagine a robot ripping any form of veggie, that vegetable will be crushed out, out of form. So it took a while for robots that can handle vegetables to be developed, but now they are in existence. Now let's see robotics in food packaging and palletizing. According to BBC research, the food processing and packaging market will be valued around 31.5 billion by 2020. That is the year we're in right now, which shows the clear upward spiral the market is going. Furthermore, 94% of food packaging operators are using robotics already, according to a survey by the Association of Packaging and Processing Technologies. Still on robotics in packaging and palletizing. So these are the basic operations they can use for primary and secondary packaging, which is another improvement again, because obviously from my previous explanation, when they started, it was used basically for secondary packaging. Then you add that, but now they can be used to so. This is so interesting. The most recent robot application within the cooking space is the robot chef Flippy, designed and developed by Miso Robotics and part funded by the Cali Group. Flippy is a robotic arm that flips and cooks burgers with ease and fries up to 80 baskets of food per hour. It monitors the food, ensure it's cooked, and can clean up that itself. Isn't that amazing? It's just like a human being. Flippy does the entire cooking. Sorry, I tried to get a photo of Flippy. I didn't get it. There was a video which I tried to download it on, but I'll just say about Flippy. So Flippy is a robot, but he cooks. He does everything. It fries that burger. It can flip it, and then when it's done, it cleans after itself. It doesn't waste. It's not like the robot is done and human being. So you can see that when you see things like this, it's really worrisome to think that what's going to happen to human employment in the near future. Here, this isn't Flippy, but this is a picture of another robot chef. Doesn't this look cute? I think it's so cute. And this robot would go ahead and do all the food preparation. Automation and development has started for cooking robots in homes as well. Now we're talking about robots cooking in the food industry, but also there are development of robots to cook in homes for those who usually have cooks. You know, some people don't cook in their homes, they employ cooks. So now there's even a threat to the chef, the home chef, because there are robots that do the cooking at home. Obviously, the modification will be different from the industrial one for obvious reasons. Now, robots in meat processing. I just wish we can get here really fast as a nation, because in the Street Food Safety Committee of the Nigerian Institute of Science and Technology, NIST, there's been a lot of, and we have a project, you know, part of what we try to do is to talk to butchers. Some of us go to butchers and try to tell them, keep clean and stuff like that. Well, COVID-19, everything that has a bad side has a good side, as well. I think that one of the good things that COVID-19 would do for us really is to reduce the work of the NIST Street Food Safety Committee, because you don't want to imagine how much work it is when we go to the open market and you try to make people understand the simple use of nose mask. It's so inconveniencing. I'm not even surprised, because even in the big industries, when that simple nose mask, as soon as the supervisor turns, there's no detour around, they take it off. You know, so trying to get, but now that's what people are wearing everywhere, all over the place. And then there's really a huge issue from school, out of school, working. There's a huge issue about the way meat is handled in Nigeria. But you can see the photo on the screen. See how the robot is handling that very hygienically and in a very safe manner. And what can the robots do with the meat? They can cut it, they can sort it, and then they package it. talking about dairy industry. So you can see we're going from sector to sector in the food industry. You see that in every sector almost, and this is not exhaustive really, this presentation is not exhaustive. So even in the milking of cows, the milking systems, milking systems were developed in Europe in the early 1990s. So it's not something that started now and were introduced in the United States in the year 2000. Robotic milking is voluntary, allowing the cows to set their own milking schedules. I think this is really interesting. Just set it up, and when the cow is ready, they go ahead to do the milking. And I think that, of course, like a human, if I may say that, you do things when you're ready. I remember I was talking to NPS yesterday. I was talking about my slides, and I said, sometimes you just have to, you're not just in the mood to do something until you have that, you're in that frame of mind where you're ready to do it. So I think that's what happens here with the cows as well. They're able to set their schedule based on when they're ready for proper milking. And I think it would yield a lot of products and safety, better quality. Also in cheese processing, robots help with stirring cuts, slicing cheese, packaging. Robots can portion up to 12,000 cheese portions per hour. Isn't that amazing? Let's actually think about it. If humans were doing that, do you think
we have 5 minutes? Blessing.
Oh, really?
We have 5 minutes, yes.
Awesome. Do you think they'll be able to do that for that much time? Now, robots in food service. Robots perform a variety of kitchen tasks as well, mixing, chopping, cocktail, and all of that. And then robots in food delivery. Robots also now are used to deliver food when food is, that's a photograph there of a robot delivering food to a customer after the order has been made and the food was prepared. Now, what are the advantages of robots in the food industry? Reduced requirements for intensive man labor, reduction in on-the-job injuries, the ability to perform operations that are highly undesirable for humans, increase in final product quality, the ability to perform operations that are very difficult to perform manually by humans, increases in productivity. Disadvantage is enhancement in flexibility, improvement in safety, and all of that. Now, my main topic is, how ready is Nigeria? Are we ready for this robotic evolution? For us to answer that question, I want us to look at the composition of the Nigerian businesses. The Nigerian business is comprised of these micro, small, and medium enterprises, and are usually not, they don't have the financial capacity to do that. And also, I'm rushing now, the culture of our people. Nigerians, naturally, we are sociable people, we like company. And also, even in a study of B2B and B2C organizations by Uzo and Adigwe 2016, it was evident how cultural norms impact business transactions in Nigeria. That is why you can go to a workplace, a very corporate work environment, to hear people speaking vernacular. And again, another thing to do with our culture, people prefer the one-on-one. Do you think Nigerians, I'm asking us now, because this question is for all of us, do you think Nigerians are ready for interacting with robots, a machine? Are people predisposed to transacting with robots? Now, again, there's the high rate of unemployment. With this high rate of unemployment, do you think now that this is the right time for Nigeria again to go and get in robots that will make more people to lose their jobs? Bearing in mind that with high rate of employment comes increase in crime in Nigeria, in which the food industry will not be left out. Also, there's the issue of education. If we have to go robotics, do we have the required skill? Obviously, there's going to be a need for upgrading skill. Do we have that required skill? Do we have the right institutions in Nigeria for that? The existing institutions, are they adequately equipped and funded? And even do we have lecturers trained to deploy such training in Nigeria? And talk about basic infrastructure. Number one on the list is constant electricity. Do we have that? Good and adequate water supply? Is it good roads and other means of transportation? Now, with all these points I have put before you, I am asking us, do you think Nigeria is ready? Thank you.